Ladies and gentlemen, there is a silent pain that lingers in the hearts of those who are ignored. A pain that deepens with every moment of neglect, every glance that looks past them, and every voice that chooses silence over acknowledgement. There is a unique kind of pain that comes from being ignored. It is not loud, nor does it announce itself like a physical wound. Instead, it lingers in the silence, growing deeper with every passing moment of neglect. When someone reaches out and is met with indifference, it sends a message that they do not matter. Over time, this feeling of insignificance can weigh heavily on their heart, shaping how they see themselves and the world around them. Being ignored can feel worse than being rejected outright. Rejection, at the very least, acknowledges a person's existence. It means that someone has seen them, heard them, and made a conscious decision. But being ignored, it creates a sense of invisibility. It strips a person of their presence, making them question whether they even exist in the eyes of others. The absence of acknowledgement can cut deeper than harsh words ever could. Many people associate pain with physical injuries or direct confrontations, but emotional pain caused by neglect is just as real, if not worse. Science has shown that emotional pain activates the same regions of the brain as physical pain. When a person is ignored, the brain processes that rejection similarly to an injury. The difference is that while physical wounds heal with time, emotional wounds can linger indefinitely. This pain does not remain confined to the mind, it affects a person's behavior and well-being. Some individuals who are ignored may begin to withdraw, believing they are unwanted or unimportant. Others may act out in frustration, seeking negative attention just to be acknowledged. In both cases, the root cause remains the same: a desperate need to be seen and heard. What makes ignorance especially painful is that it often comes from people who matter the most. Being ignored by a stranger might sting, but when a friend, family member, or loved one looks past you as if you are not there, the impact is far greater. It creates a wound that is difficult to heal, leading to feelings of abandonment and emotional isolation. The effects of being ignored are not just personal, they extend to social dynamics as well. In schools, workplaces, and even families, when individuals are ignored, the group itself suffers. A team cannot function when its members feel unvalued. A family cannot thrive when one person is emotionally shut out. A society cannot progress when its people feel unseen and unheard. Even the smallest forms of neglect can have lasting consequences. When someone is ignored continuously, they may begin to internalize the idea that they are unworthy of attention. Over time, this can lead to self-doubt, anxiety, and even depression. They may hesitate to express themselves, fearing that their words will go unnoticed. In the worst cases, prolonged neglect can lead to a complete loss of self-worth. Ignoring someone may seem harmless, but the truth is that it carries significant weight. It has the power to break spirits, to silence voices, and to push people further into isolation. The pain of being ignored is not always visible, but it is deeply felt. And the longer it continues, the more damage it does. Not all pain is visible. Some of the deepest wounds are carried silently, hidden beneath a smile, a casual greeting, or a routine conversation. Many people who are struggling do not openly express their pain because they fear judgment, rejection, or burdening others with their emotions. Instead, they suffer in silence, hoping that someone will notice without them having to say a word. One of the reasons people choose to keep their suffering private is the stigma surrounding vulnerability. Society often equates strength with silence, teaching individuals that expressing pain is a sign of weakness. This mindset forces many to suppress their emotions, pretending everything is fine while battling an internal storm. The reality is that suppressing emotions does not make them disappear, it only deepens the suffering. Another reason for silent suffering is the fear of being misunderstood. When people do open up, they risk their feelings being dismissed or invalidated. Phrases like "just get over it" or "others have it worse" discourage individuals from sharing their struggles. Instead of seeking support, they retreat further into their own minds, believing that no one will truly understand what they are going through. Some people stay silent because they don't want to be a burden. They assume that others have their own problems to deal with, and that their struggles are not important enough to be acknowledged. This belief can lead to isolation, as they convince themselves that their pain is something they must endure alone. The truth, however, is that suffering in isolation only makes the pain more unbearable. Silent suffering does not mean a person is unaffected. In fact, it can be even more dangerous than outward expressions of pain. Those who suffer in silence often carry their pain in hidden ways through sleepless nights, lack of appetite, sudden mood changes, or even self-destructive habits. Their distress may not be immediately noticeable, but it is always present, shaping their thoughts and actions. In many cases, silent suffering leads to a loss of connection with others. When people feel that no one understands them, they start withdrawing from relationships and social interactions. They may become distant, avoiding conversations or keeping their responses short. To the outside world, it may seem like they are simply quiet or reserved, but in reality they are drowning in their own emotions, unsure of how to ask for help. Silent suffering is particularly common among those who have experienced repeated emotional pain. When someone has been ignored or dismissed multiple times, they learn to keep their feelings to themselves. They begin to believe that speaking up will not make a difference. This creates a cycle where their pain remains unspoken, and because no one addresses it, they continue to suffer alone. The most heartbreaking part of silent suffering is that it often goes unnoticed until it is too late. People assume that if someone is not talking about their struggles, they must be fine. But silence does not mean absence of pain. It is often a cry for help that no one hears, a plea for understanding that remains unspoken. Ignoring someone does not make their pain disappear, it often makes it worse. When a person is consistently neglected, they start to internalize that feeling, believing they are unimportant, unworthy, or even invisible. Over time, this emotional neglect can lead to serious consequences, affecting their mental health, self-esteem, and even their actions toward others. What seems like a simple act of indifference can set off a chain reaction of negative effects. One of the most immediate consequences of neglect is a sense of isolation. When someone is ignored, they feel disconnected from the people around them. Whether it's a child ignored by parents, a student overlooked by teachers, or a friend left out of conversations, the feeling of exclusion is painful. Humans are social beings who crave connection, and when that connection is denied, loneliness becomes overwhelming. Neglect can also lead to deep-seated insecurities. A person who is constantly ignored may begin to question their worth. They may wonder if they are not interesting enough, not lovable enough, or not good enough. These thoughts, if left unaddressed, can lead to anxiety, depression, and a distorted self-image. When someone does not feel valued, their confidence begins to crumble. In some cases, people who feel neglected may resort to attention-seeking behaviors. They might act out in ways that force others to notice them, whether through rebellion, anger, or risky behavior. Children and teenagers, in particular, may lash out in frustration, believing that negative attention is better than no attention at all. Unfortunately, this can lead them down dangerous paths, making poor decisions just to feel seen. On the other hand, some individuals respond to neglect by withdrawing completely. Instead of seeking attention, they retreat into themselves, becoming emotionally distant or detached. They stop sharing their thoughts and feelings, assuming that no one cares to listen. This emotional numbness can make it difficult for them to form healthy relationships in the future, as they struggle to trust others or believe in their own value. The consequences of neglect are not just emotional, they can also manifest physically. Studies have shown that prolonged feelings of loneliness and neglect can lead to increased stress, weakened immune systems, and even heart problems. The body reacts to emotional pain much like it does to physical pain, and being ignored can trigger harmful effects on overall health. Neglect can also have long-term psychological effects. Many adults who experience neglect in their early years carry that pain into their later relationships. They may struggle with attachment issues, fearing abandonment, or assuming that people will always leave them. Others may become emotionally closed off, avoiding deep connections to protect themselves from future hurt. Perhaps the most tragic consequence of neglect is when someone loses all hope. When a person is ignored for too long, they may start to believe that their presence or even their existence does not matter. This can lead to severe depression, self-harm, or worse. Neglect, though often unintentional, has the power to push someone to their breaking point, making it one of the most dangerous forms of emotional pain. At took a core of human nature is the deep, undeniable need to be recognized. From the moment we are born, we seek validation from those around us, first from our parents, then from our friends, teachers, colleagues, and society as a whole. This need for recognition is not about vanity or selfishness. It is about the fundamental human desire to feel seen, heard, and valued. Without it, a person can feel lost, invisible, and unimportant. Recognition comes in many forms. It can be as simple as a smile, a greeting, or a nod of acknowledgement. It can also be something more significant, like praise for hard work, appreciation for effort, or validation of emotions. When someone receives recognition, it reassures them that they matter, that their presence makes a difference, and that their actions have meaning. When a person is deprived of recognition, they begin to question their worth. A child who is constantly ignored may start to believe they are not good enough. A student whose efforts go unnoticed may feel unmotivated to continue trying. An employee who is never appreciated may lose passion for their work. In every stage of life, recognition plays a crucial role in shaping a person's self-esteem and confidence. Even in the smallest interactions, recognition makes a difference. A simple thank you to a waiter, a compliment to a co-worker, or an acknowledgement of someone's hard work can brighten their day. On the other hand, being overlooked repeatedly can lead to frustration, sadness, and self-doubt. It takes little effort to make someone feel valued, yet the impact of that effort is profound. Social relationships are built on recognition. Friendships strengthen when people feel appreciated. Families thrive when members acknowledge and support each other. Romantic relationships flourish when both partners feel seen and valued. When recognition is absent, relationships weaken and emotional distance grows. People need reassurance that they matter, not just in words but in actions. The need for recognition is also evident in the way people express themselves. Some write, sing, create art, or share their thoughts on social media, not just for personal satisfaction, but for the hope that someone will notice and appreciate their work. When their efforts are ignored, it can feel like they are speaking into a void, making them wonder if their voice even matters. A lack of recognition can also lead to resentment and conflict. When people feel unnoticed or underappreciated, they may grow bitter toward those who ignore them. This can lead to tension in families, friendships, and workplaces. Many disagreements and misunderstandings could be avoided if people simply took the time to acknowledge each other's feelings, efforts, and contributions. At its core, the desire for recognition is about belonging. People want to feel like they are part of something, that their presence holds meaning in the lives of others. When they receive recognition, they feel connected. When they are ignored, they feel isolated. Recognition is not just a small gesture, it is a powerful force that shapes emotions, relationships, and self-worth from the earliest moments of life. Human beings seek recognition. A baby cries not just for food or comfort, but also for acknowledgement. A child beams when praised for a drawing. A student thrives when a teacher notices their efforts. This craving for recognition is not a sign of weakness or selfishness, it is a fundamental part of being human. It reassures us that we exist, that we matter, and that our presence has meaning. Recognition does not always have to come in grand gestures. Sometimes the smallest acts of acknowledgement make the biggest difference. A simple smile, a nod, or a few words of appreciation can uplift someone's spirits. Even a casual greeting, just hearing one's name spoken, can remind a person that they are seen. In a world that often feels fast-paced and disconnected, these moments of recognition are more valuable than we realize. When people are deprived of recognition, they begin to question their worth. A student who works hard but never receives praise may start to feel invisible in the classroom. An employee who consistently delivers good results but is never acknowledged may lose motivation. A person who tries to express themselves but is constantly ignored may withdraw, believing their voice does not matter. Over time, this lack of recognition chips away at self-esteem and confidence. The need for recognition extends beyond individual feelings. It plays a crucial role in relationships. Friendships grow stronger when people feel valued. Families become more united when members express appreciation for one another. Romantic relationships thrive when both partners feel noticed and cherished. When recognition is absent, bonds weaken and emotional distance grows. Many broken relationships are not the result of major conflicts, but rather the slow accumulation of unacknowledged feelings and unspoken appreciation. In many cases, people seek recognition in subtle ways. Some post on social media hoping for likes and comments. Others pour their energy into work, art, or hobbies, wishing that someone will notice their efforts. Some people go out of their way to help others, not for rewards, but for the simple validation that they made a difference. When these efforts go unnoticed, disappointment sets in, and individuals may stop trying altogether. A lack of recognition can also lead to resentment. When someone consistently feels ignored, they may develop emotions toward those who fail to acknowledge them. In workplaces, employees may grow bitter towards supervisors who do not appreciate their hard work. In families, children may feel neglected by parents who never praise their achievements. In friendships, people may drift apart when they feel undervalued. Many conflicts and misunderstandings could be avoided if people simply took a moment to acknowledge each other. Beyond personal relationships, recognition has a profound impact on mental and emotional well-being. Studies have shown that feeling valued contributes to happiness and motivation, while feeling ignored can lead to stress, anxiety, and even depression. When people feel invisible, they may lose their sense of purpose. When they are recognized, even in small ways, it reinforces their identity and reminds them that they belong. At its core, the need for recognition is tied to human connection. We do not exist in isolation, we exist in relation to others. Being seen, heard, and valued is what makes life meaningful. The simple act of acknowledging someone can brighten their day, strengthen their confidence, and even change their entire outlook on life. Recognition is not just a luxury, it is a necessity. Many people believe that ignoring a situation or a person will make the problem disappear. They assume that by turning away, staying silent, or pretending not to notice, the issue will resolve itself over time. However, ignoring something does not erase its existence. In fact, it often makes the situation worse. Problems that are left unaddressed tend to grow, becoming harder to handle in the long run. When someone is struggling, ignoring them does not take away their pain. If anything, it amplifies their suffering. People who are hurting often seek acknowledgment, validation, or support. When they are met with silence, they feel even more isolated and misunderstood. Instead of healing, their wounds deepen. They begin to believe that no one cares, which can lead to frustration, anger, or even despair. Ignoring someone can also damage relationships. Whether it is a friendship, a romantic relationship, or a family bond, neglect breeds resentment. When people feel unheard or overlooked, they start to emotionally detach. Over time, the distance between them grows, creating a rift that becomes difficult to repair. Many relationships have fallen apart not because of big arguments, but because of prolonged neglect and unspoken emotions. In social settings, ignoring problems can lead to toxic environments. In workplaces, for example, unresolved conflicts between employees can result in tension, decreased productivity, and a lack of teamwork. In schools, ignoring bullying does not stop it, it allows it to continue and worsen. In families, refusing to address issues creates long-term emotional wounds that can last for generations. Avoidance does not bring peace, it only postpones the inevitable confrontation. Ignoring issues does not only affect personal relationships, it can have larger societal consequences as well. Problems like poverty, discrimination, and mental health struggles do not disappear just because they are not talked about. When society ignores these issues, they grow into crises. Real change only happens when people acknowledge problems, discuss them openly, and take action to address them. Some people choose to ignore situations because they are afraid of confrontation. They worry that addressing the problem will lead to conflict, discomfort, or awkwardness. While these fears are understandable, avoiding the issue rarely leads to a positive outcome. In many cases, having a difficult conversation early on prevents bigger problems from developing later. Facing issues head-on is often the only way to truly resolve them. Ignoring can also cause someone to act out in desperation. When a person feels unseen or unheard for too long, they may resort to drastic measures to get attention. This can manifest in unhealthy behaviors, reckless decisions, or even self-destructive actions. People do not lash out for no reason often. It is a reaction to prolonged neglect and the need to be noticed. At its core, ignoring is a passive response to an active problem. It does not provide solutions, nor does it bring closure. Problems do not disappear when they are ignored. They evolve, intensify, and sometimes become irreversible. The only way to truly address an issue, whether personal, relational, or societal, is to face it with honesty, empathy, and a willingness to understand. Kindness has the power to heal wounds that are not always visible. A simple act of compassion can provide comfort to someone who feels lost, unimportant, or forgotten. Unlike ignorance, which deepens emotional pain, kindness offers reassurance and reminds people that they are valued. No matter how small the gesture, kindness can make a lasting impact on a person's heart and mind. One of the greatest strengths of kindness is its ability to restore hope. When someone is ignored for too long, they may begin to believe that no one cares about them. A kind word, a thoughtful action, or even just a moment of genuine attention can challenge that belief. It reminds them that they are not alone, that there are people who see them and care about their well-being. Kindness does not require grand gestures. A smile, a listening ear, a few encouraging words can be enough to lift someone's spirit. Many people struggle in silence, carrying burdens that no one else sees. A simple act of kindness can lighten that load, even if just for a moment. It shows that someone is willing to acknowledge their existence and offer support without expecting anything in return. When kindness is shown consistently, it has the power to rebuild broken self-esteem. People who have been ignored or neglected often develop negative thoughts about themselves. They may feel unworthy of love or attention. However, when they experience kindness, it challenges these negative beliefs. It reminds them that they deserve respect and care just like anyone else. Beyond the individual, kindness strengthens relationships and communities. When kindness is practiced regularly, it fosters trust and deepens connections. Friendships grow stronger when people feel valued. Families become closer when members support one another. Even strangers can create meaningful connections through simple acts of goodwill. In a world where so many people feel isolated, kindness can be the bridge that brings them together. Kindness also has the power to break cycles of negativity. When people feel ignored or mistreated, they may become defensive, angry, or withdrawn. But when they are met with kindness instead of neglect, it can soften their pain and encourage them to respond with kindness in return. A single act of kindness can create a ripple effect, inspiring others to be more compassionate in their own interactions. In addition to emotional healing, kindness has been shown to have real physical benefits. Studies suggest that acts of kindness release feel-good hormones such as oxytocin and serotonin, which reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and improve overall well-being. Kindness not only helps the person receiving it, but also brings joy and fulfillment to the person giving it. It is a gift that benefits both sides. At its core, kindness is one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to heal emotional wounds. It has the ability to bring comfort to those who are struggling, to offer hope where there is despair, and to remind people that they matter. When kindness replaces ignorance, the world becomes a better, more compassionate place for everyone. It is easy to judge others based on what we see on the surface. People often make quick assumptions about someone's actions, emotions, or struggles without taking the time to understand their experiences. However, judgment creates distance while understanding fosters connection. Choosing to understand rather than judge allows people to feel seen, heard, and valued rather than dismissed or misinterpreted. Everyone carries personal battles that are not always visible to the outside world. A person who seems distant may be struggling with anxiety. Someone who lashes out may be dealing with unresolved pain. A quiet individual may have been ignored so often that they no longer see the point in speaking up. When we judge people without knowing their full story, we risk misinterpreting their actions and deepening their suffering. Understanding requires patience and empathy. Instead of reacting with criticism, it means taking a step back and considering what someone might be going through. It means replacing thoughts like, "Why are they acting this way?" with what might have happened to make them feel this way. This shift in perspective allows us to see people's struggles rather than just their outward behavior. Judgment often leads to isolation. When people feel judged, they withdraw, afraid of further criticism or rejection. They may hesitate to open up about their struggles, fearing that others will not take them seriously or will dismiss their feelings. Understanding, on the other hand, creates a safe space where people feel comfortable sharing their thoughts and emotions without fear of ridicule. The way society approaches judgment versus understanding has a major impact on mental health. People who feel judged are less likely to seek help for their struggles. They may internalize negative beliefs about themselves, believing they are not good enough or that they will never be understood. However, when they encounter understanding and acceptance, they are more likely to heal, grow, and move forward. Understanding does not mean agreeing with everything someone does. It simply means making an effort to see things from their perspective. Even when we disagree with someone's actions, choosing to understand rather than judge allows for meaningful conversations and positive change. Judgment builds walls, while understanding builds bridges. Practicing understanding can strengthen relationships in all areas of life. Friendships become deeper when people feel they can be themselves without fear of criticism. Families grow stronger when members listen to each other with compassion rather than rushing to judge. Even workplaces become more supportive when colleagues choose to understand rather than condemn one another's mistakes. At its core, understanding is a choice. It requires effort, but it has the power to transform lives. When people feel understood instead of judged, they gain confidence, feel less alone, and are more likely to trust others. A world built on understanding rather than judgment is one where people feel safe, valued, and encouraged to be their true selves. Change does not happen on its own. It begins with individuals who decide to take action instead of waiting for someone else to make a difference. Every great movement, every shift in mindset, and every positive transformation starts with one person choosing to do what is right. If we want a world that is kinder, more understanding, and more inclusive, we must be the ones to lead by example. Being the change means taking responsibility for our own actions. It is easy to complain about problems in society, relationships, or workplaces, but real change comes from doing something about it. Instead of expecting others to be more compassionate, more respectful, or more inclusive, we must embody those qualities ourselves. When we practice kindness, understanding, and patience, we set the tone for others to follow. Small actions have a big impact. A simple smile, a kind word, or a moment of listening can make someone feel seen and valued. Many people underestimate the power of small gestures, but they can change someone's entire day or even their entire perspective. Being the change does not always mean doing something grand. Sometimes it is the little things that create the biggest ripple effects. When we take the initiative to be better, it inspires those around us. Just as negativity spreads, so does positivity. When one person chooses to be kind, others notice and may feel encouraged to do the same. When someone stands up for what is right, it gives others the courage to speak up. Every act of change, no matter how small, has the potential to influence others and create a chain reaction of goodness. Being the change also means standing up against ignorance and indifference. It is not enough to avoid doing harm. We must actively work to make things better. This could mean speaking up when we see someone being ignored or mistreated, offering support to someone in need, or challenging unfairness when we encounter it. Silence and inaction allow problems to continue, but choosing to act can make a difference. It is important to remember that change is not always easy. There will be moments of doubt, resistance, and even setbacks. But true change takes time and perseverance. The people who have made the greatest impact in history did not do so overnight. They remained committed to their values despite obstacles. If we want to make the world a better place, we must be willing to keep going, even when it feels difficult. One of the most powerful aspects of being the change is that it empowers us. Instead of feeling helpless about the problems around us, we take control and become part of the solution. Whether it is in our families, communities, or workplaces, choosing to lead with kindness and integrity gives us a sense of purpose. We realize that we have the ability to shape the world around us, even in small ways. At the heart of being the change is the belief that every person has the power to make a difference. No act of kindness, courage, or understanding is ever wasted. Even if we cannot change everything at once, we can influence the people around us, and that influence spreads. The world does not change by itself, we change it through our actions, our choices, and our willingness to be better. It is often said that prevention is better than cure, and this wisdom applies not just to health, but to all aspects of life. Taking steps to prevent problems before they arise is always easier and less painful than dealing with the consequences later. Whether in relationships, personal well-being, or decision-making, being proactive can save us from unnecessary regret. Many people only realize the value of prevention when it is too late. Friendships and relationships, for example, often fall apart not because of one big mistake but due to years of neglect. When people fail to communicate, show appreciation, or address small issues early on, those problems build up. By the time they realize the damage, the bond has already weakened beyond repair. Taking the time to nurture and maintain relationships can prevent the pain of losing them. In personal growth, prevention means making wise choices early rather than dealing with regrets later. A student who procrastinates on their studies may struggle with poor grades and missed opportunities. An employee who neglects their responsibilities may lose their job. A person who ignores their health may face serious medical issues. By acting early and making responsible decisions, many future hardships can be avoided. Prevention also plays a major role in mental and emotional well-being. Stress, anxiety, and emotional burnout often result from ignoring small signs of distress. Many people push through exhaustion, thinking they can handle it, only to find themselves overwhelmed later. Taking breaks, setting boundaries, and seeking support before reaching a breaking point can prevent long-term emotional damage. In society, many problems persist because they were not addressed in their early stages. Issues like discrimination, poverty, and environmental destruction worsen when ignored. Preventative measures such as education, awareness, and early intervention can stop these problems from escalating. The longer an issue is left unresolved, the harder it becomes to fix. Prevention is not just an individual responsibility, it is a collective one. Regret is one of the heaviest burdens to carry. Many people look back on their lives wishing they had spoken up, taken action, or made different choices. While it is impossible to change the past, it is possible to learn from it. The best way to avoid future regrets is to take responsibility for the present. Doing what is right today ensures a better tomorrow. One of the biggest obstacles to prevention is the tendency to assume there will always be more time. People delay expressing love, apologizing, or making important changes, believing they can do it later. But life is unpredictable and opportunities do not always wait. Taking action now rather than later ensures that we do not look back with regret, wishing we had done things differently. At its core, prevention is about mindfulness and responsibility. It requires people to be aware of their choices and the potential consequences of their actions. Instead of waiting for things to go wrong, taking proactive steps can lead to a life with fewer regrets and greater peace of mind. Prevention is not just a strategy, it is a mindset that leads to a more thoughtful and fulfilling life. Every person in this world holds value regardless of their background, struggles, or circumstances. No one is truly insignificant, even if they feel ignored, overlooked, or unappreciated. The idea that every life matters is not just a statement, it is a fundamental truth that should shape the way we treat others. When people are made to feel invisible, their pain deepens, but when they are acknowledged and valued, they find hope and purpose. Often, society places importance on certain individuals based on status, wealth, or achievements, while disregarding those who do not meet these standards. This selective recognition can make people feel as if their existence is unimportant. However, a person's worth is not determined by external measures, it is inherent. Everyone from the most successful to the most vulnerable deserves respect, kindness, and a sense of belonging. When someone is ignored, they may begin to question their own significance. They might feel as if their presence does not matter to those around them. Over time, this feeling can lead to loneliness, self-doubt, and even emotional distress. On the other hand, when people are acknowledged and treated with care, they gain confidence and a stronger sense of self-worth. A simple act of kindness or recognition can remind someone that they are important. Every life matters not only in personal relationships but also on a larger scale. Societies thrive when people look out for one another. When individuals are valued, they are more likely to contribute positively to their communities. A world where everyone feels seen and heard is a world that fosters connection, cooperation, and progress. When people feel ignored, division and resentment grow, weakening the bonds that hold communities together. Understanding that every life matters also means recognizing the struggles that others go through. Some people may be battling personal hardships that are not immediately visible. They may be facing loss, financial difficulties, mental health challenges, or personal insecurities. Taking the time to show compassion and empathy can make a significant difference in their lives. Everyone deserves to be treated with kindness, no matter their situation. It is easy to assume that one person cannot make a difference, but small actions have a powerful impact. A kind word, a listening ear, or even just acknowledging someone's presence can change how they feel about themselves and their place in the world. When people choose to uplift others instead of ignoring them, they create an environment where everyone feels valued and supported. Ignoring someone sends a message that they do not matter, even if that was never the intention. On the other hand, recognizing their presence reassures them that they are important. Whether it is through friendships, family relationships, workplaces, or communities, making an effort to acknowledge and appreciate others can prevent them from feeling unseen or forgotten. At its core, the belief that every life matters is about recognizing human dignity. It is about treating people with the respect and kindness they deserve, regardless of their circumstances. No one should feel as though their existence is meaningless. When we choose to see and appreciate others, we reinforce the truth that everyone has value and that no one is ever truly to be present. Let's choose to acknowledge, to uplift, and to remind people that they matter. Because when we stop ignoring, we start understanding. And when we start understanding, we start changing lives. Thank you.